Oh man, this is gonna be a long video. Hey everyone, Artfinity here, and I am back with another tutorial, which is weird. And this one's actually about making manga. And just for, I guess, the reason I made this video, 2 years ago when I was in my senior year of high school, I actually wanted to make a manga. Only problem is, I had no idea how to do it! And with what I'm pretty much doing with this video is making the video I wish existed 2 years ago to teach me what I know about making manga now. It's literally a million times easier than the first method I tried, and I decided, wow, this is actually pretty useful. I should share it with people and not be a selfish crud and let the world burn for not telling them that it was actually flammable. So the first thing that I'm gonna start off with is the script. And the script I'm using, or the actual manga I'm using for this example, is actually Hill Surrounded. It's a very brief preview at the moment of a manga I'm working on, but I'm gonna be using this as the example. So here is the script for Hill Surrounded, and you're going to see a couple of things. You're going to be seeing that there's a lot of paragraphs, like here's a paragraph, and there's a paragraph, and there's a paragraph, and a disclaimer at the top. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about those. So this up here is actually just, it's a disclaimer, and you'll see like dialogue is not final. That's because this is only a script to generally get me to know how much is going to happen in a single chapter. I'll scroll down here and you're going to see that this chapter is 20 pages long. There's a little bracket that actually helps me divide how much is going to happen on an actual page, so I'm not looking at a huge wall of text and I'm thinking, yeah, I have no idea how to break this down. So what I actually do is I shorten the contents of what's going to happen on each page to a single paragraph. So this is a page, and you'll see the little bracket there, 1. This is a page, and that's another bracket there too. And pretty much every space I can visibly see in the script. This is a page, and that's a page, and that's a page. So I divide how much is actually going to happen in a single page using those paragraphs. And then here's actually a disclaimer at the top that's saying, you know, I know this isn't all going to make sense, and the reason that's there is because I had some people review it. And they're pretty much just my friends. I sent the script to a couple of my friends and I had them look over it so they could actually see how much, or it was more for me to gauge the reaction, to see what kind of reaction the story was going to get. Does it make sense? Is it cohesive? And is it interesting? Because if it's interesting in script form, it's going to be a lot more interesting when it's actually a manga that you draw out with epic panels of people doing backflips and stabbing each other in the foot. So I wanted to give this preview to a few people that are my friends that I trust, because don't give your story to the wrong people, they'll steal your crud! And just to see if it was interesting and to see if they were confused at all, because if somebody is confused with what's going on, it can pull away from the story, and you really don't want to do that if you're making a story that's going to take this long to do. So that's the purpose of the script, and I do find it's definitely helpful to get a second pair of eyes to review this, because everything might make sense to you, but it might not make a lot of sense to them. So that's pretty much the essence of the script, and now we're going to get onto the storyboards. And with the storyboards, this is pretty much to turn what you had written in the script, which is, yeah, I shouldn't have that closed. So here, what happens here, I'll just give you an example. I'll kind of just read through this, and then I'll show you guys my process of working with storyboards. So it says, Neffy is in the hallway, and she continues taking pictures of people for life studies. It's a lot more fun, and this is a quote, so you know she's talking. It's a lot more fun taking pictures of fruit than people, especially when this is the turnout. And then it says, looks at a picture in the camera roll of a kid with cross eyes making peace signs, and she says, why peace signs, people? And it says she gets up and heads to her class, and she passes by. Her teacher stops. Hey, Neffy, there's an assembly today. I promise I can read the English language. Today there might pique your interest. Neffy, of course, says, oh, teacher, back to the teacher, it has to do with photography. You and Oliver should be overjoyed. And you might notice that from here in that script to the actual final page, that isn't what they say. It changed. And what is going on? Why did the script change? It was perfect! It was not final. And, what happened? So, this is actually the benefit of storyboards, because storyboards will help you actually figure out what you're going to do with the script and refine it. The first thing I'll mention is you'll notice these are not very detailed. That's on purpose. I basically just want to figure out what I'm going to do with the script and how I'm going to turn that into a visual form. So when I'm reading the script, I have an image that comes to mind, and then I'm thinking, what is the best way to convey that in a way that'll make sense? And the first thing I'll plan is the panels, and then the word placement. So you'll see that this panel is there, which means it cuts off a part of the drawing, but I know that's there, and I know that's because something is going to be said. Because a huge mistake is making a drawing that looks awesome and then having to cut off most of it because there's words that go there. So I plan the panels first and then the words, and then I know how to space the drawing that's in that frame. Think of this kind of like a movie. A movie is playing, and from scene to scene you want to know where the camera's going to go. And here I have the directional help of Neffy taking a picture. It is a lot more fun taking pictures of inanimate objects than people. So you're going to see I changed it from fruit to inanimate objects because that just really explains that she hates humanity more. Inanimate objects, I would rather take a picture of anything than this dude doing peace signs. And then she says, why peace signs of all things? But as you can see, this actually changed around a little bit. I've already started to change it in the storyboard. And instead of having too many close-ups of Neffy, I actually have a pull away where you see her teacher, because in this last frame over here, she's saying, hey Neffy, there's an assembly today that might pique your interest. Oh? It has to do with photography. You and Oliver should be overjoyed. And I figured because Neffy only says, oh, and her teacher says a lot more stuff, she should get a more prominent role in the page. And you'll see here that's actually what happened. And then, of course, you'll see that I spaced out the wall of text. And then she's just like, what? I'll go. So even there, it changed a little bit. But the reason that I did the storyboard was actually to help me get to that point. I pretty much refined the page. And I guess a little more things I can tell you, just neat tricks I picked up is I actually use these numbers on the side for the events of what happens in the panel. So 1 corresponds with the first panel, 2 corresponds with the second panel, 3 is the third panel, and so on. And sometimes I will rewrite them. So you'll see that's there, and I didn't like it very much, so I go over here and I write it again. And this is where the finalizing of the dialogue comes into play. And this is also where if you want to have words or something involved that relate to the scene you're looking at, you can figure it out. And then an even cooler trick I figured out later is that you can use blue for dialogue and then black for events. Walking inside, lights with plops on couch and all that stuff. But then you'll see this is really boring, so I actually went and I cut this page out entirely. And it's good that I didn't actually draw it first and then realized it's pointless because I'm still in the storyboard phase figuring out what I was going to do. And yes, I did storyboard the entire chapter before moving on. And instead of rewriting out all the words, I pretty much just make these horizontal lines that say, yeah, words go here, and those are the words there. So that's how I use storyboards. Very useful, because now we're going to get on to the actual creation of the page that we have taken so much time to plan. Okay, now the last thing I want to explain is the actual making of the page itself. Now, I'm trying to do this like in a cool split screen way, and hopefully it makes sense. But to the left, you'll actually be able to see the entire creation of the drawing itself. So this is the actual drawing aspect of it. And then you'll also be able to see me scanning it in and actually cleaning up the scan. And that's a little bit about what I want to explain on the right. Because one thing I didn't know for the longest time was how to work with a manga page that was bigger than the size of my scanner itself. So I was very limited to the actual amount of detail I could put into a drawing because it was so tiny. And I actually found out that there's a way that you can put these drawings together. Okay, so as you can see here on Photoshop, I have like a weird half screen thing going on. Sorry, by the way. But here in Photoshop, I actually have the page and it's entirely pieced together. But this is a 12 by 14 piece of paper, and I only have an 11 by 12 scanner. And instead of manually trying to scan in the two drawings and put them in together, there's actually a useful option that you can use if you have both halves of the image scanned in. So you're going to see over here that I have a couple of scans. I have this one, and with this is essentially half of the drawing, and here is the other half. So I actually scanned in one half, flipped it around, and then scan the other half, and now I have two halves of the image. And with this, I'm actually going to go here into Photoshop. I'm going to hit File, Automate, and then Photo Merge, and it'll actually bring up a window that has the different kinds of things that you can use. This is different types of options you can use to merge your picture, but because I really don't know anything about the other ones, I stick to auto. And I'll just go to browse, and I'll add in the files that I want to add in. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go to my scans, and then I'm going to hit OK. And you can add in as many as you want, but I really only need 2. Then you just hit OK. And Photoshop will work its magic and figure out what to do with these. And as far as the DPI, which is the dots per inch of the image, basically the higher the DPI, the higher the resolution. And I scanned it in at that higher resolution for what we're going to do to clean this up. Because you're going to see that this is scanned normally, and I even pieced it in now, which is awesome. So this magically pieced one half of the image together and the other half of the image together, and now everything's good and dandy and it looks cool. But you're going to notice that you can still see all the streaks of the black. It's not that dark, and also the white of the page. So I'm going to teach you guys how to fix that too. So I'm just going to head and merge these two halves of the image, together. I can win the promise. And with this, there's 2 ways of going about doing it. So the way I use is just over here with a filter that's actually called threshold. And what that'll do is it'll pretty much kick up the contrast of both the lights and the darks. And then you can just slide this across as much as you want to get a good clear-cut image. And I usually go from 120 to 180. It really depends on the picture. But because this is just an example, I won't make it exact. And over here, now you're going to see, here is the drawing. There's occasional little phrase and stuff that aren't there, like there might be some spots that are missing, or some lines that are actually out of place. Like, kind of like with that tree, there's random speckles and stuff. But that you can clean up just by cleaning up the actual scan itself. And then from there, I'm going to talk about something really useful, which is actually here on this page. You're going to see that I actually have these weird blue marks here, and I actually went ahead and made these with a blue colored pencil, so I know where the screen tones are going to go. So even when I scan this in, I'm going to keep this, and the moment I don't want it to go away, or the moment I do want it to go away, I'm just going to add a black and white filter, and that'll pretty much take that out. Or if you mess with the threshold enough, that'll go away on its own. So I kind of have a preview of the actual scanned image before I actually go in and do anything with it. So I have this point of reference, and if I wanted to draw any specific details like clouds, I can. And that's super cool, because then I know exactly what I'm doing with the page, even down to screen tones, just by scanning it in. And that, I find, saves me a lot of time. And then you're also going to see here I just have notes out of the bounds of the page, which is just a cool trick I picked up for myself. So over here it says Neffy camera reference, so I know that I actually have a reference file that I saved with this kind of camera, and I can pull that up. And then I have over here cloud panel, so I don't forget. And then over here I have panel 6 Central Park reference, because this is actually a drawing that I wanted to be based around Central Park as far as the background. So yeah, I even have notes to what kind of references I'm using or just what to do. So that's a very useful thing to do with this. And also for those of you who spend a lot of time on your line art and you don't want it to be as washed out or jagged as this is normally the best kind of quality for printing, because it's very sharp, and when you print it out it won't look feathery. But for people who actually want to keep more integrity in the line art, then there's another filter you can use, and this one's levels. You can just click on this and then drag everything more or less to the center, and it should pretty much do the same thing, but it'll let you keep more of your lines. You're going to notice there's weird little blue streaks and stuff, and that's because I still had blue pencil in from before. But just a quick adding of the black and white filter will actually go ahead and take that out, and then this will be completely good to go after you clean it up a little bit. So yeah, there it goes as far as cleaning up the scans. And now we're going to get to the last step, which is compositing. Alright, next I want to talk about the final step, which is compositing, which pretty much means putting it all together. So you have your drawing, you have your text, and you want to know what the crud you're going to do with it. And I know a lot of people will probably just upload one page at a time, and that'll work. But for anybody who wants to know how to make PDF files and pretty much upload like a huge chunk of the manga to DeviantArt or something like that, or if you just need PDF files, because they're nice to have. And of course here I have the PDF files. You're going to see that it has different versions of it, but what this essentially did was I took all the pages I made and I made them into a nice dandy PDF file that you can scroll through. So if you want to show your friends that you're cool and you made your own manga, and they're too cool for arrow keys, you can just scroll like this and be like, hey look, there's an entire, there you go, there's a thing. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, back to Photoshop. It's almost like it's made for professional use in visual design or something. So you go to File, and you're going to go to Automate, you're going to go to PDF Presentation. And what you'll essentially do here is add files to this by hitting Browse, and you're going to have your story saved in there. So I'm going to go to English, and I'm going to pretend these are in order, but do add them in order. Like, you want the cover first. I have the note page and the reading directions that tells you, hey, did you know this manga reads from left to right instead of right to left, so quit trying to read it backwards, it doesn't make any sense. You can actually add all the stuff in and say, yeah, okay, and then you can pick different options, like if you want the file name, title, author, description, copyright. This is mine! But I hope this video helped anyone out, and I also want to say good luck to anybody that wants to make their own manga. If you do actually end up making one and you use any of the techniques or stuff that I showed you in this video, please let me know. So it'll be a good self-esteem boost to me because I'll feel like I did something useful. And of course, if you have any questions, I will answer them. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this video didn't take that much of your time because now I need to go and edit it for a lot of hours. But I hope this was useful. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!